Welcome into the opening ceremony of the 2023 Cannes Parallel Challenge here at Fantasy Film Ball. My name is Matt.
And I'm Arnaud. We're so excited to be sharing this challenge with you. This is our second year doing the Cannes Parallel Challenge. Last year was amazing, this is just, to us, like an excellent way of introducing ourselves to some of the most fascinating voices in cinema right now.
Arnaud and I started doing this challenge because we're both huge fans of the Cannes Film Festival. I've been following Cannes very casually since 2011 and very closely since, I think, 2017 when I went to film school, and I was like, oh, most of the films I love are coming out of Cannes. So I started to follow it much closer. I really love the Cannes Film Festival because it's a platform on which some of my favorite films are premiered every single year. Cannes has a very unique style of programming that blends the old masters in with some of the freshest faces in cinema.
Well, for me, I guess for the past few years, I've been pretty obsessively following the three major European festivals. To me, it's a mark of quality. If you're selected, it means that you're worth a look, that you're worth listening to. I always find that Cannes really does stand above the rest, at least strictly on a programming level. As a film geek, researching and following the events and the selection at Cannes gets me to watch what I will likely consider to be some of the best films of the year. Some of the films that come out of Cannes often top my best of the year list. I hear the festival itself is a whole different beast. And I hope to go one day, but for now, let's focus on the movies themselves and not the festival experience.
Arnaud and I are not at the Cannes Film Festival, but this is our way of experiencing it in our own kind of fun, creative way. So we're going to share this with you guys. This is our first time sharing it. This is called the Cannes Parallel Challenge. We have taken the films in the competition lineup at the Cannes Film Festival this year. Then we create a brand new lineup based on that lineup. We take the directors of each of the films currently in competition at Cannes, and we watch one of their earlier films. So in our challenge, for example, Wes Anderson's Asteroid City now becomes The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. And we view that film and we talk about it. And at the end of the Cannes Film Festival, the two of us get together and we talk about our own prizes. So the Cannes Film Festival over in France has their Palme d'Or, and we end up having our very own based on previous films from some very, very exciting filmmakers.
Our criteria for choosing these films, it is often a case-by-case basis, but we do try to keep this very Cannes-centric. So if a filmmaker has a film that has premiered at Cannes in the past that neither of us have seen, that's also a key thing, right? We have to watch films that neither of us have seen, so it's a whole new lineup that we are discovering. There are other, priorities like, first we'll prioritize the Cannes competition, then, the Cannes Festival as a whole, then, a film they've made, or then a film they've participated with. And if none of that still works, then we try to find an equivalent film of some kind. Usually we don't have this much trouble, though. It's really not that hard to find, like, good stuff.
So we're going to be watching 21 films, and you can discover them as we release these videos through the Cannes Film Festival. Watch along with us, follow along. You can find the list of our films on Letterboxd. It's linked down in the description down below. So follow along with us, and if you can, watch some of these films too and weigh in on what you think. Because we're not just going to be talking about these past films, we're also going to be giving our thoughts on these fresh, new, exciting films that are coming out and talking about what we learn about the new films through these old films.
Without further ado, let's start with our first film, the opening film. This is a film that is out of competition, so this will not be a film that we will be considering for prizes, but we are watching it as part of this opening ceremony. The opening film this year at Cannes is the new Maïwenn film called Jeanne du Barry, starring Maïwenn and Johnny Depp. So, you might be wondering, who is Maïwenn and why does she have a single name and not a last name? Well, she does have a last name that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. But she only goes by Maïwenn, I think in part because she was a singer at one point. And you might also know her from controversies. She used to date Luc Besson.
She was 12 years old when they met, and then he based Leon the Professional on their relationship. It's so fucked up, man. It's so
Yeah.
fucked up.
But she's definitely weirdly proud of it, to the point that she assaulted a journalist who wrote on some of Besson's questionable actions. Straight up assaulted him not too long ago in the streets of Paris. Clearly, she's still defending the guy. With that said, Maïwenn is a filmmaker with a few films behind her. One of which is Polisse, which is the very first film that she made that got into the Cannes competition. It even won the jury prize that year. This is the film that we have chosen for this opening ceremony slot. What's your impression with Maïwenn and with Polisse?
I've always seen Maïwenn's name around, especially on these Cannes lineups. And every time I see Maïwenn's name, I just think, oh, that's the obligatory French movie. I always get the vibe of a vanity project where she's an actor, director who is making a vehicle for herself to star in. So yes, we did choose to watch Polisse here, which came out in 2011. Polisse is a sort of fly on the wall realist film. It follows a group of police officers working in the child protection unit in Paris as they encounter abuse, neglect, and all sorts of horrible things happening to children. And meanwhile, Maïwenn plays a journalist that tags along with the police through their daily routine, taking photos of them, and she begins an affair with one of the officers. It feels very ironic that Maïwenn, of all people, is making a movie about protecting children because, as we just spoke about, she was in a relationship with Luc Besson when she was a child. And she still actively defends him for this relationship, even going so far as to assault someone. As you mentioned, she spat in someone's face and shoved them. I don't know the exact details, but she assaulted someone to defend her abuser. And so it feels very ironic seeing a film like this coming from someone who clearly is in denial over the fact that they were abused as a child. In some ways, Polisse feels like a bit of a vanity project where she's kind of showing what a good person she is by touching on a heavy topic and making herself one of the leads. And I will say it's a bit weird that despite all of that I just said, I actually liked the film overall. I think it actually works more than it doesn't.
I have to say that I also really like the slice of life kind of ensemble piece of it all. It's a lot of quote unquote unimportant moments that are kind of stitched together that don't contribute to a traditional three act American Hollywood narrative. The non actors and the child performances here are really terrific. There is one scene in particular where an 8-year-old kid is being separated from his mother, and I was like, oh my god, he's actually having a tantrum. And I have trouble conceiving how that scene was like actually created. Those are some of the highlights of the film easily. But also, it definitely feels like Maïwenn is imitating more than she's creating. This doesn't feel like her vision. It really shows to me in that, this is a film that cannot decide where to land on. This is a film that's equally trying to be socio-realist as it is trying to be a giant theatrical acting showcase. You have like sitcom lighting and explosive performances from known actors who each have their own scene to show off. But you also have these non-actors who are there to kind of show the real grimy kind of side of this topic. And the fact that you have Maïwenn in the middle of it all, trying to have this whirlwind romance with one of the biggest music stars from France, is 100% a vanity project thing, and it's impossible not to see. Oh, also the ending is absolutely insultingly bad.
I would agree that the performances are incredibly strong in this and were definitely the highlight. I liked how the camera also stays out of the way of the performances, kind of just lets them do their thing. The script is where this all falls apart. It is tonally confusing. Sometimes the character relationships between the police officers are very unclear. And like you said, every single actor gets their moment to shine, which means that the situations that the characters are in often feel very contrived just so that they can have a big emotional moment, which then in the next scene is nothing. The movie just picks up and moves on from there. I have no problem with an episodic narrative that features a bunch of different disconnected moments all coming together. It's just the way that these moments are built to create something kind of phony, like every scene that they choose to write is written not because it makes sense for the characters, but because the scene is intriguing to do. The movie builds these moments out of nothing, and it's forcing the emotion. It's forcing the power, and that means that things are not powerful. And like you said, the ending is what the hell happened there? Again, it's another contrived moment to be like, hey, what if we ended the film with one character killing themselves? Wouldn't that be dramatic? And that's the issue I have with the whole
Also, just a
film.
complete change of style.
For this, for the purpose of putting forward this narratively, is just like it's out of nowhere, it's forced, it's contrived, it's cliche, it's upsetting, but not in a provocative way.
I'll also say this is not a funny movie, but I kept getting US workplace comedy vibes from it. Like this movie is shot like and has the same vibe as The Office or Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And this is definitely more inspired by the 2008 Palme d'Or, The Class, but with the way that the characters in this film interact and the premise of someone with a camera entering into their workplace and documenting their life, it really feels like this could be a very twisted US sitcom. And it's not that, but it's the same vibes. Overall, I know I've sounded a lot more negative than I think I actually am on this. I think that for everything this film does wrong, it also does something right. Overall, I feel much more positive than I thought that I would about this movie.
I'm more positive on Maïwenn, like I said, but I still think that she is. I don't find her to be an interesting filmmaker, and so far I'm still kind of waiting to see her make a film that isn't as self-serving.
Now let's talk about the opening film of this year's Cannes Film Festival. We're going to get into everything that we know so far about Jean du Barry. Basically, all I know at this point is that the film stars Johnny Depp, who is apparently only in 15 minutes of the film and was very hard to work with, and that's why his role was cut down. But Depp plays King Louis XV in this, and yes, he does speak French. How well does he speak French, Arnaud?
His French is surprisingly good, although nowhere near as good as you would need for a character that is literally the King of France. It's clearly a bit of a stunt casting. It's also clearly a bit of a, continuing Maïwenn's vanity projects. Like she's casting herself as like the romantic lead to Johnny Depp. Although, as you said, Johnny Depp is apparently in just around 15 minutes of the film, which makes me think that every single shot we've seen in the trailer is basically all the scenes he has in the movie, because we've seen him in like maybe 6 different costumes in the trailer, and if he's in 15 minutes of the film, that is all his scenes, which is very, very strange given that the plot of this film is Maïwenn plays a character who rises the ranks in Versailles despite her humble beginnings, all the way to being Louis XV's mistress. So this is like supposedly kind of like a almost dangerous liaison, kind of a political, sexual drama thriller in 18th century France. And yet the romantic lead is in very little of the film. So this isn't a stunt casting that's just like a minor character. This is the King of France here, who is supposedly like, the subject of the desire of the main character, or vice versa. Anyways, I saw the trailer. You saw the trailer, I presume. Let me know what you think. I was not impressed by this trailer.
I also was not. I mean, I have conflicted feelings about the opening film of the Cannes Film Festival featuring Johnny Depp, who is an abuser. Amber Heard also did stuff. He did stuff too. Hearing the reports of Depp's behavior on set here, it does not sound like he's been working on bettering himself as a human being yet. Also, Maïwenn assaulting a journalist. All of this just feels like a mess. It just feels like the cancelable film of the year. What can the film that we watched, our parallel, Polisse, tell us about Jean du Barry and about Maïwenn as a filmmaker? I've already said I was surprised by how much I liked Polisse. It did have a ton of flaws, but some things were very impactful about it. Despite how much I liked the film, all the things that I ended up not liking about it are kind of things that I feel proved me right about my initial impression of Maïwenn. I am not looking forward to Jean du Barry.
Opening films at Cannes are very miss, period. The only exception to this in the last few years, in my opinion, really being Annette, which I think is a masterpiece. I know it's a divisive film, but there is a lot of merit to this film, regardless of what you think. And while it wasn't that well received, I thought Michel Hazanavicius's final cut last year was, I thought was a really extraordinary remake of One Cut of the Dead. But I know that the consensus is not in my favor here. I don't expect this to break that trend of the opening film at Cannes being a high-profile, auteur-driven film that just isn't as strong as it should be. I don't have that high expectations. Even if Polisse was better than DNA, this, like you said, confirms Maïwenn's vain tendencies as a filmmaker, and the Jeanne Dubarry trailer just keeps furthering that. On top of that, it's a period piece, so there are extra challenges there that I don't know if Maïwenn is capable enough to challenge.
Thank you guys so much for watching the opening ceremony of our Cannes Parallel Challenge for 2023. We hope that you guys can go out there, track down some of these films, and join the challenge with us, even if you're watching far into the future. Watch some of these films, track them down, learn about these filmmakers, and make sure you subscribe so you can keep watching us on our journey to discover who will be our Palme d'Or.